All right, guys, welcome back to 18 Summers Candid Conversations. I'm here with my friend Anthony Trucks. I was on his podcast months and months ago when the world was still normal. Shift, as you guys remember, Anthony is a former NFL football player, author, and coach extraordinaire. And that's why I wanted to have him back on the show today. Anthony, welcome back, buddy. Good to see you.
You too, man. Thank you for having me. Good to see y'all all full of life and joy, man. I like it.
Yeah, man. I mean, the last time we talked, we had some deep conversations, but obviously there's been some changing conversations of new things on the plate. So hopefully, obviously our conversations behind the scenes about our families and being busy entrepreneurs and the changes, I'd love to share some of those with the people on with us today.
Yeah, man. Would love to. Anything can do to hopefully bring some joy and some perspective. That's what we're here for.
Excellent. Yeah. I would love to start with something that always comes back to me from our first conversation together. And it's something that I really appreciated about you sharing, because I think a lot of kids face this, a lot of parents face this. And they say, oh, the odds are, yeah, that can't happen. But the fact that you went to the NFL, played very well in the NFL, but you didn't start playing football till considerably later than the other kids around you.
Oh, yeah, vastly.
So what was the age that you really started to play again?
My first year was 8th grade, 1 year before high school.
So most kids have been playing 7 years before you?
They've been playing for a while. Yeah, a lot. I mean, my kids, they have little kids that started like 7 years old, 8 years old. Yeah, a lot of my teammates at the time, they'd done that. I grew up in foster care, so I wasn't allowed to play because my biological mom had what's called parental rights and would condemn me from playing. So I had to watch all these kids play the game. We were poor too. We couldn't afford it. So even if I probably could have, I probably couldn't afford it with the family. But yeah, man, I couldn't play for a lot of years.
Yeah. And what was it like starting? Because I know a lot of kids feel like this in different situations. And I love to see a situation like that where you took it from being behind to the top level. What was it like being that eighth grader who was obviously pretty athletic, I would think? You said you were a good athlete but couldn't play, but you were still behind. You didn't know the plays. You didn't know the fundamentals. What was it like being that kid?
It's a crappy feeling, man. It's not just a kid. Adults have this feeling. We try something new. I mean, if it's a new relationship, a new job, a new group of friends, and a new hobby you pick up, you initially start this thing that you envision to be fun and enjoyable and to be really great. And then you get in and you realize that you suck. And the feeling of being met with that realization does not feel good. And that, I think, is it's an interesting position for every human when we get there, because we have two choices. Option one is we can make a great excuse for why, this isn't something we do, and we can avoid that pain of sucking altogether and go do something else. And we get the shiny object syndrome, we bounce around. Or we say, look, the part of this process is to not be good and to figure out how to keep going back in here and minimizing the pain. It doesn't disappear, but I minimize it to where it gets less and less. And eventually it becomes joy. And for me at 14, like, I was just really bad. And I mean, I'm getting hit by people. It's different. Some people, like, you're not good at your job. Somebody may yell at you, you may make a mistake. Like, I'm getting hit in the face, as it goes on. It's a way different feeling. I'm getting tackled and it hurts. But there's this joy to the freedom of expression. That was the thing for me, a freedom of expression, just to go out and run around. And for me, it gave me a sense over time of like a self-worth, because when you put your energy and effort into something, it gives you more of a sense of confidence of being whatever that thing is you do. And when you get that, you keep getting more hope and more optimism that it may change. And then it gets less painful over time, and eventually gets to be where it's joy, like I talked about. So, a couple of years later, from that moment in time, I was the only sophomore on varsity, like doing phenomenal. And it wasn't just my athleticism, but it was a confidence that came from me doing the work against the feeling of I suck to become less sucky, I guess.
So between 8th, 9th, and now by sophomore year, you're already lettered. But how many times, if any, was there in that 8th and 9th year of Anthony that you're like, forget it, I'm done with this? Did that ever come up?
Oh yeah, man. Right. Funny enough, after my freshman year, I was like, I'm done with this. Like, it was my 15 years old, actually. It's freshman year of high school. And I checked out, man. I had 2 crappy seasons from youth football, then freshman football. I was like, man, I can't catch a football. I can't catch a break. Nobody cares about me. I'm like, I don't want to do all this. My mom got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, my adoptive mom. My older brother, I was one of six, or am one of six. He went off to the military and like kind of left me high and dry, but it wasn't on him. It was just like, he just was living his life, and he was like my anchor. And so he's gone. So it just kind of sucked. And I was just like, man, life sucks. Like, former
Yeah.
foster kid, mom's sick, brother's gone. I suck at football. I'm done with this. I'm gonna just go do something else. And remember, just I would come to school and I would just check out. I wasn't doing homework. We're not an academically sound family. I'm the only person at this point in my family, of all six of us, to graduate with my actual diploma, not from a continuation or GED, and the only one to graduate from college, the only one to go to college. My brother's in the military, but it's not college. But it's like that aspect was not something that people do in my family or my aunts and uncles and my cousins, none of them. So like I was this weird oddity. And so, yeah, but it was mostly because I did check out. I was done. It was not supposed to be in the stars for me to be anything great, just to be totally honest. And so, yeah, I
But
did
what
quit.
made you hold on there then? What was the hold on? What was that last vine that you grabbed for
They
and
grabbed
swung
to.
in? Yeah.
Someone threw it at me. It wasn't hanging there. It was freshman year, Mr. Howell's English class. These two girls are sitting there and they're talking to each other. And I got this gift that not a lot of people get. And I think it's a great gift that we all need to get. And I had in my head had this thought of like, here's a foster kid. Aunt, you're not nobody special. Like, and I didn't know at the time, and I know this now, that statistically, if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. And like 50% of the homeless population are former foster kids. So like not set up to do well at all. And so this girl is talking to another girl, and I'm sitting there with like this black park over my head. I'm eating a bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal. I remember because it was just my favorite cereal. And this girl says, the other girl, she says, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And it was simple. And it was a small statement that most people are like, and like, that's just, but here was what it was. It was the gift of me hearing my excuse out loud and how stupid it sounded.
Wow.
It was like, man, like that's going to be the reason as to why I'm a bad dad or a bad husband or not in jail. Like, that's going to be it. Like, man, I didn't even have any control over that. I was like 15. I'm like, I didn't have control over my foster care world. Like I was forced upon me. And I had this thought of like, I do not want to feel like this anymore. I want to be great. Like not great in comparison to other foster kids, but like the world's view of what a person does who is great. And it was this different anchoring down for me of an ownership to, I'm going to just do what it takes. And I had this commitment to myself of, I don't know what exactly to do, but I'm going to do what people who are successful in the things I want to do, they do. This is where a lot of us get the imposter syndrome going on, because I wasn't a good football player, but I was like, I'm going to do the things good football players do. And I get poked at, like, Aunt, what are you doing, man? You suck at football. Why out here catching footballs? You suck. And why you lifting weights, skinny boy? You're weak. You can't play. Like you get that. Yep. And you can easily be like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to stop doing this. But I was like, no, if I'm going to be that guy, I got to do these things. And I started doing them. And lo and behold, after 1 year of just living and breathing, catching footballs, running football routes, lifting weights, to everything, Jim, the next year I came back and it was a different animal inside.
Yeah. Like the threshold starts to go, huh? It starts to cross over just enough.
Just enough. And you know what it is we will fight for what we deserve. That's what I've realized in life. But if you don't think you deserve much, you don't fight.
I love that. We fight for what we deserve.
Yeah. And you will not believe you deserve what you haven't worked for. Yep. There's no reason to believe that if I hadn't worked my tail off, I wouldn't, in the middle of the football game or the middle of practice, believe that I own this football and when it's in midair and I'm going to catch this and you will not. That I will not be tackled, that you will not break my tackle. Like there's a different sense of will that comes out when I am protecting who I am because I've earned it. And for me, that's the big thing I found about people is a lot of people don't build. They want to have that thing and they say they want to, I'm that person. But when it comes to it, when the ball is in the air and in the moment of this thing is like a split second, they don't fight for something and they drop the ball or they miss out on the opportunity. And it actually re-ingrains the opposite, that you in fact aren't that thing. But if you didn't work for it, if you didn't do the dirty work in the dark to grind, why should you really believe that you deserve that thing? And that's the problem is we will fight for what we deserve, but people fight for too little because they don't think they deserve much.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about what your story had told me, because I remember talking about this, you got conviction before you got expertise. Yeah. Isn't it so many people are like, once I get the expertise, I'll be convicted.
And I'll feel great. It's
Yeah,
even
yeah, but
worse.
you can't do that. You can't do that.
No,
And so anything from sports to business to relation, you have to get the conviction, then the expertise would
comes.
follow, I think, but people try to do it the opposite way,
I
you
almost
know?
feel like if you have the expertise, then you start to know what you don't know, and it makes you feel less than.
Yeah, I
It's
think you're
almost like
right.
the ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to start grinding for this, and little by little, I'll feel like I earned or deserve more of this information and expertise as I go along. But if I just get the information and put it in my head, I'm like, oh man, all kind of stuff I don't know and don't know how to do. It's overwhelming. So like, yeah, I start things by just diving in. Like I'm the guy that starts to put things together without the instruction manual. Sometimes I'll figure it out.
Which can
And
be sometimes the best way, as you said, ignorance is bliss in points like that.
yeah,
Because if you
sometimes
had too
maybe not
many
with IKEA
facts,
though.
yeah, no, no, definitely not. That can cause more swear words in our house than anything possible. So, well, let's talk more about the foster. As you know, I have two adopted sons.
Yeah.
We foster. We had a very unique experience, definitely going through the pandemic, having two extra children under the age of 4 with us, and with all the, not only the pandemic, but then obviously the George Floyd. I mean, this was a huge situation that happened. My two youngest foster children were Black. So it hit homes in lots of different ways. And something that always stuck out for me, I believe from whatever I've seen and reading your story and listening, you live racial harmony. You have a conviction of racial harmony. You stand for things. And I just think that's an important message today. And no one can take that away from you, not the way that you've lived, not your experience. Like what would you say to that? What would you say of that whole situation of what's going on, of wanting to create more racial conviction and harmony and getting rid of all this nonsense that we're going through? And I don't think anyone has more right to talk about than you, just because of the way you've lived your life.
Yeah, I got a weird dynamic, and I mean, everybody has the right to talk about it because we're all living on the
For sure.
planet. It's just, I just have different, I guess, perspectives, and it's interesting because I have a lot of these conversations, and I don't even know what they fully do to land on people's hearts. But I grew up in a family where we were very poor, and it was an all white family. So even in that white America, that I got to grow up in, it's there is some privilege, but at the same time, like they're very poor, so it's also not privilege, and then for me, even in that family, I had a lot of my Black moments, we'll call it. You get the looks and the stares and the words. So I've had that happen. The interesting thing is everybody wants peace. Everybody wants to not have to go outside and have arguments or feel like they're in that racial tension. And not everybody is a bad person. Like not everybody is a racist. Everybody is with the KKK, and not everybody is a hoodlum or a gangster, gangbanger. And the problem is each side is being seen by the worst of each side. They're
Yeah.
being portrayed by the worst. And so the assumption is you must be the worst of that side. You're white, so you're a supremacist. Like, man, that's a bad way to look at it. Like my family is phenomenal humans. They wouldn't even remotely think that they're racist, like not even a close point of it. And then I have, a Black American friends that are, they're solid, great, upstanding, sometimes more educated, more successful people than some of their white counterparts, but they get ostracized because of, well, your people, they did it. It's like, wow, like we just did that. Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing you say, harmony, I think there's harmony is interesting because harmony is not the same tone. Harmony is different tones that make music, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a music
I agree.
scholar, but
No, it's a great analogy.
so it's like we need to have this acceptance of the difference that creates the beautiful music, because there's parts of each culture that are amazing, and all cultures, not just black and white, right? There's so many different cultures that are beautiful and amazing, but then if there's this separation and segregation, man, it takes away the harmony. So we do feel like the tune of America is vastly out right now, and it doesn't sound good, whether it's the media or the news. I mean, and it sucks because we are in this crazy, unprecedented time of the most collective nutso stuff ever, from pedophilia to sickness to politics to racial divides. I mean, dude, I've never seen this kind of
No,
crazy collected in one moment in time ever. So it's
me
like you've
neither.
got a lot of people who don't know how to handle hardship, handling more hardship than they've ever had to handle in their life. And so what happens is we are all in an emotional state. And when emotions are high, intelligence and logical thinking is very low.
Goes right down. Yep.
So, we start inciting anger and saying things we wish we could get back. But the harmony of it, I think, is, and I've had this statement before, though I've told people, I think what we all need to do is realize that both sides have a lot of work to do. They'll call it the black and white, the core sides in this, have a
Yes.
lot of work to do. Each work, each side is vastly different. white America's side that they have to do to bring this harmony is going to be vastly different in terms of acceptance, or, outing the people that are the bad eggs in their group that are still holding power, and the way things are seen, the way people act, like the acceptance and viewpoints, just adopting certain, views of how, and at least seeing how the other side feels. 'Cause a lot of people I don't want to see how they feel. They're just crazy and wrong. Right. And then also the opposite. Not all white people are bad, and there are opportunities for us to go after, and it is going to be harder for us to get ahead, but it doesn't mean we don't try and get ahead. Like, there's certain things we try and do, and certain conversations we need to have. We need to, in certain aspects, we do. I think Black America, we do need to address our own internal way that we have crime against ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm not going to help the pigs, and it's just probably a bad thing. If there's two pigs fighting each other and they just keep killing each other, it's like, why would I, as a bystander, want to go step in the middle of that,
Exactly.
So it's like, there's an aspect to why, we're not getting the help we need, because people see us as these animals when we're really not. But you have those demographics. And so there's aspects of the police department. Like, we need the police. We don't need the bad police, but I need the police. Like, I need, something goes on in my kid's school or something, like, who am I going to call? I'm not going to call my cousins down the street. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we need to have just all these dynamics need to be viewed. So the work on both sides is vastly different. That's just, I'll start with that. But each side, like, needs to give a little bit in some aspects, and nobody wants to give right now. Everybody's holding taut. They're holding their line.
Yeah, you're right.
And the way that I explain to people is, like, we both are living in separate houses, and we cannot invite the other party or group into our house. White America doesn't want to live in Black America's house, and Black America doesn't want to live in white America's house. But we all live in this same neighborhood, right? We want to live together in the same world. So we have to leave our houses and realize that we're going to have to compromise some things as we build a new house together. And in building a new house together, there's going to be things that you may want that I don't want, but it's still got to be included. It's called compromise. And then both sides have to equally give enough effort to where the other side feels like they deserve to live in that house once it's built. And I don't know what it looks like. I don't have the perfect answers for it, but there's got to be something done, because that, I think, is the only way we start getting the true harmony of it all. Is like, when people are able to look across and say, you may not look like me, but damn it, I know how hard you've worked to be here. Like, you get to come, like my wife and I, we were divorced at one point, got remarried, and I lived, in my house, and she lived in her house. She had a man live with her at one point. I had a woman. I'm not going to her house. She's not coming to mine. We got to build our own house. And in this new house we have, it's like, all right, well, I don't want that bed. I want this table. I don't like that couch. I don't like that painting. Like, it's back and forth. But the thing is, we both did work. She does vastly different work than I do. That's why I respect her and let her sleep in my house, in my room, and vice versa. So how do we as a society do that? It's kind of the biggest thing for me, because we all do want that. I don't care who you are. You could easily be a white supremacist racist. I promise you still want peace and harmony in your homeland.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I think there's fake fear too. I think there's just these hard edges of fake fear. And I think the best way to smooth them, as I think you were saying, and again, like, as I saw you live, I always have the rule that I don't think that anyone who's ever goes into a restaurant, sits down, and is rude to the waiter or waitress, I don't think they should ever be allowed to go to a restaurant until they're a waiter or waitress. Because you find people, once you've been a waiter or waitress, you're just not rude. I don't think, for my life, having Black foster children, and that I couldn't even understand that now, because it's just, we've been in the trenches. And I think when there's that natural in the trenches understanding, where there's actual living together and not this separate thing, and like you said, holding the cards back.
See them on TV in the news or just movies.
Yeah, a lot of those preconceived notions, they go away, because that's just their fear, false, thin paper walls.
That's the problem. America, how many people 5% most leave the country every year? Less right now. So you're talking about this incessant fear that is grinding on people's hearts right now, when a lot of people aren't around any ethnic groups except for the ones that are at the grocery store for a minute or two or in the news. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's this funny thing. People don't realize America is 75% Caucasian.
Yeah,
75. So there's a
That's
lot.
A lot. Of people. I always thought it was different.
Well, I may be wrong, but the last census I looked at said it was like 75, and like the other 25, like 13%
no, you're right.
Black.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
So when you get there, it's like, man, like, there's a lot of people who just don't ever interact with people that look like me, and so if that's what happens, then I get why you would get the the news and the media, the things you feed off of and what you see, and then you know, the portrayal of Black America. It's like, you know, most rappers or athletes, that's the best part they can do. And it's very prevalent if you look at the fact that, like, how many articles have you seen about a white person graduating from Harvard or from, you know, the law school? Like, you don't. But I see, hey, Asian or Black guy graduates from Harvard. Why is that a news headline? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the guy went to school. But
Yeah.
so like that in and of itself is it's like this simple easing in of like, look, Black people, like, look at he graduated. He's like, but like, that's a special thing, and it shouldn't be. Like, not that he shouldn't be special, he did, but like, we shouldn't celebrate
It should
him
become a
or her.
norm. It should
Yeah.
become a
So how do
norm.
we get there? That
Yeah.
these are the little things that I think that I notice, that there is like that's what's shown, right? So that this, look, it's a special one. He's different. He graduated from college, so he's different, right? So it's like, so that everybody else who isn't a Harvard law doctor, well, who are they? Are they not as good? You know, so like these little things, they pervade into society. And so of course, if you've never been around any, you know, ethnic groups or, you know, any Black people, of course you start having like the fear and the weird, and you just like, your perspective is whatever's been shown to you on media and the news, and it's poor portrayals, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah. And I grew up I feel blessed in North Jersey. We were extremely mixed.
Mhm.
You look at my birthday parties, and it looked like a soap commercial. You know, it's just the
Yeah,
way
right.
we were raised. But if certain
Mhm.
areas and sometimes it's not on purpose. I had an incredible experience 10 years ago where I was with the Dalai Lama's nephew the day he got killed here in Florida. It was a peace
Mhm.
walk. We were with him. It was a tragic event, and it took us on this journey, a 350-mile walk down the state of Florida, and it was all
Mhm.
Tibetans and me and one other white guy. And on the last night, and just, I mean, the brotherhood, you can imagine walking 300 miles after this thing. I remember I was on the beach the last night before it was ending. There was this big news conference the next day, and we're both just standing there. And he said, "You know, Jim, I got to tell you, we're the Tibetan community is just a very loving, nurturing, but we're very insulated. You know, we came from, you know, tough beginnings, and we're very insulated." He said, "I didn't know what to expect because I had never hung out closely with a white person before."
Mhm.
And I said to him, I said, "You know what, bud, that's okay. I'd never hung out with a Tibetan before." And we just laughed our asses off after saying that. And it was just such a
Yeah.
simple lesson, like, well, until you walk 300 miles together, usually a lot of potential, you know, having the guard up is gone, because it was
Yeah.
just all just smoke and mirrors. It was all
It's
just
people, man.
imagination. Yeah. So anyway, we have a lot of changes happening right now. And I love how your messages and your coaching, and for us, we work with families. And I know, you know,
Mhm.
this isn't just the high achieving businessman or performer, but this is the whole family.
Yeah.
What would you say, you know, for the family now going into the fall? As you said, your two twins are about to go back, the other one's already in class online. Like, there's changes right now. You know,
Mhm.
what would you take for your coaching to bring it to the family dynamic? Not just the high performer, but the whole family.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. So my work's all in the realization that we have an identity, like all of us do, and you have a family identity. There's, you know, that's what you would call a, you know, the family dynamic or the culture, what we stand for, a credo. And so with the family aspect of this, if we look at how we as humans were kind of built, we'll call it, or programmed, when we were like 15, 16, the world kind of around us programmed us. That's why you have racism. It's why you have views on love, you have views on career, views on happiness, you have views on money. These are all programmed. We live our life with those operational kind of, you know, viewpoints, just going on nonstop in the background, just running their program. And then we create a life almost haphazardly, almost like on autopilot, without even realizing. We'll push real hard, but
Yeah.
we still
Yep.
have some of these inset things. And it's not until I get to the point of what work I do, we deconstruct it and reprogram it. Like we take a look at how do you intentionally program who it is you want to be and how do you want to operate, because that's what changes your life. It's
Yeah.
the actions, and we know that. But what drives the actions? Like, how do you know, how do you make them become things that don't drive you insane to do them all the time? Like, it becomes your new normalcy. And so you architect that. We literally will architect what I call your ideal identity. And then from there, we start to learn how do we activate that in real life. For families, it's no different. For family, you still sit down. Corporations do the same thing. You sit down and you say, what is the identity of this? What are the beliefs, the thoughts, the actions that we do? What are our core habits? What's our family mindset? What do our family take pride in? You know, what are those things? Like my family, with a statement is, trucks don't show up, we show out. For
Mm.
sports, we don't just show up, man. We show out. We do work. Like, so when my daughter goes in the pool, hey, what do trucksters do? We don't show up. We show out. You know, like she has a little thing. She's a
Love it.
swimmer. So it's a thing, right? That's part of our family's identity. We don't lie. We pray before we eat. Like, these are things that make us us. And so when families, they don't think about the fact that they were just naturally, you got two people usually came together and they started just doing this thing, and no one thought about what it was. The family's kind of been programmed. We just do certain things, and we know in our heart of hearts they're not all the best things. But until you sit down and architect, like, what are the things that we want to do? Do we want to be a family of pride, of passion? We want to be a family of servitude? Like, how do we want to show up in the world? When you can create the ideal identity for your family, now you can start architecting what are the actions that our family has to do consistently to build this persona, to believe it's who we are.
Yeah.
Like, that's the big thing people don't grasp. An identity is who you believe that you are. And that's when you will battle for what you think you deserve. If I believe that's who I am, I deserve that, I'll fight for that. So you can't all of a sudden have that. You have to build that. And it takes time and energy and effort. So I craft what I want it to be. I do the actions daily to where a year from now, 2 years from now, the family wakes up and goes, I don't know when it happened, but like, we are all like phenomenal at how we interact with our friends. We all have great relationships. We just know how to do that because we do it here at home. We all have great friendships. Or, you know what? We do a lot of philanthropy. We're a family that likes to give back. Like, that's who we are. It doesn't happen because you wake up one day and say, it's who I am. It happens because you guys do little things. You all choose a neighbor's house each week to go mow their lawn and help clean their cars. You just, whatever it is. The first house is like, Mom and Dad, why are we doing this? The 20th house, when people say thank you, it's who we are. My family, we clean cars and we help because we just like doing it. Like, it's a different belief. And now you've got a newer identity, and then everything can move smoother. So identity-wise, no different for your family, a collection of people than one person. Architect what that identity is, and then create a plan to make it come to life.
Isn't that cool? And isn't it funny how these things play off each other? So many families never get clear on their values, never get clear on their intentions, never get clear on what we were talking about earlier about that conviction will bring about. Again, it's not like all of a sudden, oh, wow, we live these values of service and philanthropy. No, you made a conviction. This is what we're about. And 2 years later, you're saying, it's almost like our underlying software now, like you were saying, but it goes back to those little deposits, like you said, between 8th and 9th grade. Man, there were thousands of drop passes. There was many moments of embarrassment and stumble and fall, but then it starts to come back up. But again, it's that conviction, getting clear, and then it will come. I think everyone wants that before, not after. And that's one of the toughest things. So I'm glad everyone heard that from you, because no one gets it up front. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. And I especially think that if families would just take an hour to do what you just said, well, what are we about? And just sat there and whiteboarded literally for an hour. I think it could change the trajectory hugely. It won't get them all the way there, of course, but it'll start to steer them in the right way.
Starts the process. I mean, because a lot of the things we do are subconscious, like the actions and reactions. I call it the hard way: habits, actions, reactions, and drivers. When we're going through our day, we're not always consciously thinking about the moments that that we can't give back, that we're affecting, right? I call it mastering moments moves mountains in life. It's the moments that matter. It's the way that, you open the door for somebody or pick up trash. Like, my family has a rule: if there's trash in the ground and you touch it, you kick it, whatever it is, you pick it up and put it in the garbage. We're not picking up all the trash on the road. It's just difficult to do. But I'll be damned if you're going to kick that apple and then not pick the apple up and put it away. Should have touched it. Go wash your hands, right? It's like little things. So we have these little nuances, but these are things that are woven in over time, man. Like, it's just this consistent thing to where eventually you take pride in it. And it's got to be something that we all think about intentionally doing. Because if we don't intentionally think about doing it, it will never happen.
Love it. Love it. Hey, tell us real quick about the new book you're working on. I want to
so the book is it's on identity shift. And so I've been playing this. So I guess there's funny thing, it's just 2 books. I'm determining or trying to decipher, do I make 2 books or do I make 1 book that merges them? But there's this concept of identity shift that I work with. The science behind it is all there. It's great. And I've written a good chunk of this book. And then I started realizing that sometimes there's books that need to be out before the main book, the ones that are simple and they kind of indoctrinate people to a concept. So there's this kind of quadrant I work with called the slower go. It's a slower go identity. And you can determine if you're a dreamer, dabbler, defender, or a doer, and what level of doer you are. There's 5 levels. And I'm trying to decide, do I make that book, which is a much simpler, straightforward, easy to understand book, before the identity shift book? Because here's the one thing is, identity shift in and of itself, the science is coming out, which means more and more people are talking about it. And I want to make sure I write the book on that topic. I want the title to be Identity Shift, written by me, but I don't want to do it too early because it's kind of interesting. But it's really all about both books, to be honest. They're about how do I get the aspect of understanding very clearly where my identity plays into my success or lack thereof, my happiness or lack thereof, my achievement or lack thereof, because it's not this intangible mindset thing. In fact, science shows that without a self-categorization or identity, no mindset will anchor itself to actually have success people think it can have. That's why some people can do mindset trainings and still struggle, because I can give you all the tools to do your mindset stuff. But then if you don't think that's who you are, you can never fully apply it. So how do I get to self-identify, self-categorize? So that's kind of where my work's at, man. But the book is one that gives people the perspective of like, oh, this is what identity really is. This is where it shows up. And then this is how I can use it in my favor to get what I want in life.
Love it. Love it. Well, we'll look forward to that. And in the meantime, where can people reach you? Because I want to make sure
Anthony
that
Trucks on Instagram.
Anthony Trucks
Or
on
AnthonyTrucks.com. You can head over to AnthonyTrucks.com. Check me out there. It's my website. Just got that thing redone, relaunched. I'm very happy with it. So if you guys want to go check out some cool stuff, head on there.
Nice, nice. Well, AnthonyTrucks.com. Anthony, I've always enjoyed our conversations together.
You too.
I think what you imparted today about starting late and still making the full victory. Obviously, all of us want better relationships, you know, in all areas, especially race right now with things that are going on. And the family's in it together. So get clear. What are you about? I love that simple, direct question. What are you about? Because so many people don't even face that. And if they do with their families, I think that's a great starting point. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
All right, man. Well, hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take care, Anthony. Have a good one, bud.
You too, man.